people's lives, there is only maybe a half dozen, 7, 8 categories that really matter. Most people, they major in minor things. They focus on the stuff that doesn't matter. They know more about the celebrity going in and out of rehab than they do about their own personal development. But I look at it and say, if you look at your body, without that, everything else is out of the door. You don't want to be in the richest man in the graveyard. That's not gonna do it. If there is energy, if there is vitality, if there is strength, it's gonna show up in your relationship. It's gonna show up in your business. It's gonna show up in your life. That's where you gotta master. You can dabble. It's too important. Emotion is everything. I mean, you got a ton of money, everybody loves you, and your primary emotions are pissed off and frustrated. Then your life is pissed off and frustrated. It doesn't matter if you got $1 billion or 1 million people loving you. Your life is not great. Relationships, intimate relationships especially, it's where the most juice in life come from. It's where the most pain come from most people. It's worth mastering instead of dabbling. Really looking at what are you gonna do with your time and mastering your time. Instead of having a checklist, you cross it all off. You can stack movement for achievement. I want to squeeze out of the time what matters, that creates value for me and for everyone I care about and love. What about our career or our business? And the mastery of that instead of dabbling. Most businesses are dabblers. This is why you don't make it 95% in a 10-year period of time for person. Make it. That doesn't even mean they're profitable. It doesn't mean they're enjoying themselves. Alright? Or they're getting anybody else to feel good. Really mastering money so that it's not questioned in your life. You can do and be and give and share as much as you want. You're not stressed about it. You live in a place of abundance. And then spiritually, really I don't tell people what to believe spiritually, but I believe that ultimately whatever you believe, you gotta live it, and it should lead to growing and giving. If you're growing, you feel alive. If you're giving, you feel 10 times more alive. And I think if someone can celebrate and give, then that's spiritual state. So to me, those are the areas I look at the mastery, business for sure, but it's the area of life that matters most. And most of where we spend our time doesn't make people feel fulfilled. That's why the average person is not fit and healthy. The average person is not in a relationship where they have tremendous passion. I'm not a dummy. I'm not positive thinker. I know the truth. The average person is not successful in business. The average person is not earning what they want to earn. But you know what? Very few people have those things. But if you do, if you are happy, fulfilled, spiritually alive, financially strong, their business is growing, they have passionate love affairs. And I'm obsessed with finding the new who and find out what they do different and teach them to everybody. Everyone gotta master themselves differently because everyone values things differently. Some people value success or significance. Some people value love more. Some value just basic level of certainty. So when I look at the specific metrics, I really look at metrics of what are the things that need to be mastered to know if your life is gonna work or not. So I look at it as our whole life are guided moment to moment by the state we're in. Learning how to change your state, not fake, but to go from pissed off, frustrated, freaking out to back in your center or creative and determined, or something that's gonna move you forward. It's gonna create better quality of life for you and others. That's a critical skill set. So moment to moment, our life is controlled by our state. If you are in an angry state, you're gonna respond differently. If you're feeling playful, but what controls those states long term is your model of the world, your world view. And I look at that as having as a metric 3 things that I look at. I look to see first, what are the targets you are after? The target is everyone has different goals and dreams and desires. But as I travel around the world to 100 countries, I started going and am I seeing the same problems? What's underneath it? I began to see that there are the same 6 human needs, that we all have the same needs. We all have a need for certainty, that we can avoid pain and we have some pleasure, some comfort. We all need uncertainty. We need variety. We feel deep instead. If you're totally certain, you're bored. If you have total variety, you're gonna freak out and it's not a balance. It's learning which of have these you need as a person. Everyone's developed a different set of values in that area. The need for significance to feel unique, special, important. They need to feel loved, they need to grow, and they need to contribute. Some people value certainly at the top of their list. That's at the center of their target. I don't want to do everything else. I know it's gonna work. I don't do anything unless it's the same. If you change anything, they freak out. If certainty is the number one thing on your list, everyone has the same needs. But if you're number one, and if it's number one, I know how your life is gonna be. I can predict the direction of your life and therefore the destination to some extent. If you're driven by love first, you want certainty, but love is higher. You're gonna behave very differently than if you're driven by significance. I have to be one. So I look to see which of these needs are the top two on your list because they control your life. The two most people have 90% of the planet. If you said all of these needs, which one do you really focus on most day to day? Everybody wants love. What do you focus on? Most people focus on being significant. We live in a Facebook world where people fake their life, put new filters, make it look different than it really is, tell stories that are totally full of it to make themselves look good. Because we live in a false world where significance is more important than love, and it separated us. And the one that we see most often is certainty. People want to certain before they can do something. You couldn't have started a business like you had if you were absolutely certain before you started. You can never build a business with that. You can never build a great relationship because if it's based on certainty, then everybody gotta stay the same, never change, which means you're never gonna grow, which means you're gonna be miserable. So my metrics are, I want to find out what's driving you. I want to see, is it healthy or unhealthy? You can have two people be driven by significance though and do it with a different set of rules. That's the second piece I measure. The beliefs or rules of how to fulfill that target. But I want to be more clear about something. An extraordinary life is life on the terms. And there are two parts. Part one, to have an extraordinary life is mastering the skill of science, of achievement. How do I take what I envision and make it real? And how do I do that quicker, faster, better, easier? The ability to manifest what you've come up with and make it real like you've done with your company. That's a skill set. I spent an unbelievable amount of time helping people do it faster, quicker, better, showing them the shortcuts, teaching them the strategies, modeling what works. You can save yourself a decade, but I would submit to you that having done this for 38 years with 50 million people at this stage, I can tell you that the science of achievement, there are lots of people that are damn good at it and they still do not have an extraordinary life. They have an extraordinary life. You see it as extraordinary, but I get a phone call from a multi-billionaire who tells me he wants to do the things and the business, but what he really find out is he's miserable as hell and he's hoping somehow I'm gonna rub off on him on that side too. And so I gave him what he asked for. The change is in his business, but I also give him what he needs, which is the change instead of him. So the second skill is the art of fulfillment. If you want an extraordinary life, you cannot just achieve. You gotta be fulfilled. As simplistic as the second, but it's an art. It doesn't science. It's not a science. It's a science to make your money. Come on, any age, any color, any background, any gender. If you do things, you will have an abundance of money. You do things, you're gonna have too much mouth. At the end of the money, you're gonna have financial stress, right? Body. Everyone's biochemistry different, but you and I both know there is fundamental rules, laws. There is a science in the body. You violate that science, you're gonna have disease, you're gonna have low energy. You align with that, you're gonna have an abundance of energy. It's gonna affect everything in your life. It's a science. Fulfillment is not like that. Fulfillment is as different as our human beings. You want to know what God's or university likes. Look at the jungle, look at the forest, it's diverse, right? So most people think, well, I want to get that because they have been modeling everyone else, and that might work on how to achieve something. It'll never work for what to fulfill you. How many people you know like you got what you through, you wanted and you weren't fulfilled? And I always tell people success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure, and the ultimate failure, because if you go at somebody and something and you fail, you're an achiever. You don't fail, you go, I learned something, I'll just try something else, I'm gonna still get there. But when you succeed and you're not happy, so a perfect example of this, I mentioned in the seminar. You were there, because it hit me about a year and a month ago. We lost what I consider a national treasure. Robin Williams, I asked people how many love Robin Williams. Everyone raised him all around the world, right? He made people laugh. People were touched by him. So how good was he at the science of achievement? I mean, he wanted to be a great comedian, make the whole world laugh. He did. He wanted to have his own TV show. He did. He wanted the #1 show. He did it. He wanted to make movies. He did. He wanted to have an Academy Award for not being funny, dramatic, and he did it right. He wanted a beautiful family. He achieved everything, and he hugged himself. That's crazy. I know recently someone saying, well, you know, he had dementia. He had drug abuse. He had alcohol abuse most of his life because he made everybody happy, but whom? Himself. That's the ultimate failure. So if I had no other message to offer you viewers and you let me give it to them right now, I'll tell you what I believe. I believe our lives are controlled by our forced decisions. I certainly believe in force greater than myself. Call it God, if you will, grace, whatever you want to call it, the universe. But I also believe it gives us choices, and the decisions we make control us much more than conditions we meet. It's not the conditions, it's your decisions. Decisions, what to believe, decisions, what to do, decisions, what to give. I say to people, think about, look back 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, and think of a decision you made that if you wouldn't have made a different decision, you'd have a totally different life today. Better or worse, I don't know, but totally different. The most important decision you can make above any on the face of earth is deciding that no matter what happens in your life, no matter what happens, you're gonna live in a beautiful state. The decision to say, I'm not gonna suffer, that if suffering arises, pain is one thing, suffering is another. Suffering is when you like. Suffering could be worry, it could be anger, it could be frustration. It is anything that takes you out of the beautiful state. And here is what people don't get. You can end suffering by stop focusing on yourself and focus on something you wanna severe greater than yourself. Your children, your wife, your mission, your life. You can get out of it an instant. Because the nature of the human mind is constantly compare things. Your mind, your brain is a 2-million-year-old device, and it's not designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you survive, and that's why it's always looking for what's wrong, what used to be, what's wrong with saber-toothed tiger, so I can concept and protect myself. Now people are worried about what people think about them, or do they have enough money? When 2/3 of the planet lives on $2 a day, you're making around $40,000. You're rich. The poorest and the poor in the country are considered rich. I'm not saying that they should stay the way, but you can only build on success. My goal would have you consider something. Life is short. We don't know how short it's gonna be, but if you only had a week to live, I bet you wouldn't allow yourself to suffer over a little crap that make you crazy. Normally, I think you would probably spend with those you love. You would do what you love. You take on the sunset. You would smell the air. You would take in everything in those final moments that you possibly do. So my thing is, why wait? Why wait? When I just decide that if I start to suffer, I know the solution, because suffering is my obsessing about me. You might say it's not me. I'm not worried about my kids because they're not doing well. No, you're not worried that you have done enough for your kids. It's about you still, right? Yes, you worry about what was done or what you should have done and what shouldn't have done. And you can end that in an instant by becoming aware of it and saying, I have made the most important decision of all. I'm gonna live in a beautiful state because here's what's gonna happen. Anybody watching you may lose a family member. You probably will. Somebody may get cancer. Your business may. The government might change the rules. It might change things radically. You cannot even do more than anything about it. You might go bankrupt. You might get divorced. I don't say anybody will, but no one knows what's gonna really happen in your life. Life is full of uncertainty, but there is what you can know. You can decide then what happens. You could have a great time if somebody like Viktor Frankl can be locked up in Auschwitz and come out of that experience finding joy in the middle of Auschwitz. Then human beings have a capacity they undersold themselves on. We think that the outside world determines how we feel. If people have to behave a certain way, if your husband and your wife and your kids or your co-workers or whoever your boss has to behave a certain way for you, be happy and And if you don't, you're not happy, then you're always gonna be unhappy. Because more people are around you, the more they're gonna change that. Because they're all human, right? My invitation is as great as it is to achieve, more important to enjoy. And if you can enjoy every moment in the state when you're feeling loving and playful and passionate and curious and we treat other people 100 times better than when we're feeling frustrated, pissed off, overwhelmed, worried, stressed, and feeling sorry for yourself. You're gonna be a better parent, you're gonna be a better lover, you're gonna be a better business person, you're gonna have a better life. So my story is, decide today and actually say, what if I cut it off? What if I said I'm not willing to settle, just gonna live in a beautiful state? Doesn't mean you won't feel bad. It means you won't stay here. You instantly change. But what the hell is success? It's hitting an expectation. And I always tell people, man, trade your expectations for appreciation. It's a whole new world instantly. If you can't appreciate this moment, if you cannot find ecstasy in this moment, in a conversation with a friend and looking in your wife's eyes, being with your children, going on a run, if you cannot find ecstasy now, I'm here to tell you, more money, more people, more love, more business, more anything else is not gonna give you more exit. If you cannot do it here now, you're not going to do it here when we got more. So why not do it now and have a rich life? Really now. I tell people money, that's one thing. Like having financial abundance. There is a skill that is science, but wealth, it's a decision. It's like you can be wealthy. Right now, I live in Fiji a good portion of the time. There are always these villagers there. They're the richest people I know. They're happy. They love. They do not give them about economics. Other people say they're poor. When I first went there, I was trying to do things for them. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm so happy. Wealthy people come over from United States. They go travel around and try to figure out what to do. And they're gonna spend over, 9 years to do this. And so they can finally sit down and be happy. And the giant guys goes, why don't you sit on the beach right now? And experience. Why spend the 9 years? Why not have it now? That's my invitation.